be respectful of our francophone Canadians. So today, actually, okay, so I got introduce myself. My name is Catherine Cloutier. I'm a counselor providing counseling services, telehealth counseling services during the pandemic. And of course, now that we're all getting familiar with these platforms, and moving into some of the telehealth options, we're providing counseling and coaching actually to individuals. And so I'm a registered clinical counsellor with BCACC in British Columbia, as well as a Canadian certified counsellor. I also have a background in yoga, which is part of why I can offer this mindfulness combination with mental health and emotion. So yeah, okay. Now I'm just going to, oh, here we go. This slide speaks to the two different services for individuals that we offer through Sandstone Counselling Centre. I've got the contact information for you up in the corner. We can receive text and voice communications through our telephone line, as well as you can go online to our website, sandstonecentre.ca, and it's spelled the Canadian way with R-E. And here, this slide speaks to where you're located actually changes what types of service we can offer. If you're in jurisdictions that recognize the credentials of my credentials as an RCC or a CCC, Canadian Certified Counsellor, then you you can access Tele Counselling, so there's video or telephone options, and then coaching is actually available for everybody in Canada, this is more of a mental wellness focus. So Tele Counselling, we can do psychotherapy, counseling, clinical counseling. That all of those words are kind of interchangeable. Where telecoaching is more about goal setting and personal wellness and education. So that's in the other jurisdictions that are where the credentials are not interprovincially recognized. Okay, I'm just going to, it looks like there's a little bit of technical concerns that we're going through here. I'm just going to see how things are going. It says that I'm just going to, I think things are okay. My helpers here are trying to address, it seems that I might be cutting in and out a little bit. But I think I'll kind of proceed because I can't take care of that. So they're working on that if you're finding that your screen is coming in and out. For those participants who've just joined, I just wanted to introduce myself again. My name is Catherine Cloutier. I'm from Sandstone Counselling Centre in Kamloops, British Columbia. And today, in presenting this mini wellness webinar, part of the Wednesday series, I invite you to be interactive. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'm just going to see if there's any questions right now. Okay, so I was introducing the two different types of services available through Sandstone, and now I'm just going to speak to the corporate wellness webinar packages that are available through JFL Media, where Sandstone and JFL Media are in partnership to provide wellness webinar packages. So this means that, so today is a mini webinar, and I'm able to present one topic and one experience, a learning an experience, I suppose. Like today we're going to do actual mindfulness, not just talk about it. So we're going to introduce a topic and then have an experience, whereas the larger webinars provide a lot more detail and a lot more different varied experiences for the different concerns or topics, or wellness topics, mental health topics, or mental wellness topics. And so you can see on your screen that the 4 we have right now, we're going to be adding more. And JFL Media actually offers corporate training for multimedia. So kind of the tech world. I'm not going to speak to exactly all the things they offer there, but the packages can also be combined with with wellness with wellness webinars for employees, especially during this difficult time where I think people are starting to shift to realize that now that we've experienced so much of the concerns physically for our physical safety, what we're starting to notice, excuse me, is that the mental health and mental wellness is becoming kind of a larger concern. And especially as people are working at home, some of these things can become larger and become barriers to productivity and success in working at home, feelings of success. So that's why we put this together. Okay, so I'm just going to, oh, I thought I'd present to you the upcoming workshop. So last week we had Preventing Panic, the yoga-based breathing. And so that you can find on our YouTube channels, and in JFL Media, they have a number of ways of accessing this, so you can watch it if you've missed it. And today, of course, is the mindfulness exercises for decreasing stress. Next week, we're going to do self-hypnosis for emotional soothing. And then May 13th, the concentration exercises to increase mental clarity. So each week, we're going to be able to provide a new topic, information, and then experience. And one of the things that is so enjoyable about doing webinars and having them interactive is that we can respond to your feedback. So if there are topics that these are only the topics that we've chosen so far, but certainly we're planning to offer these webinars weekly. And so if you have a topic that you would like to put forward, we'll certainly be responsive to that and create a webinar specifically to address any kind of or not, I suppose, any, but anything that I can speak to anyways, focused on mental wellness and feeling successful in this new way of living, I suppose, that we're all kind of going through. Okay, what I'm gonna do here is I'm just going to provide you with, I'm gonna see if it's working. Oh yeah, okay, so I'm gonna, right now in your chat, you'll find the contact information for the weekly webinar sign up if you'd like to participate every week, but also for the packages, the corporate packages, and then again, contact information in case you would like to book Tele Counselling or Tele Coaching. Okay, so I see that we've got a few more participants, and I'm just going to say that I'm from Sandstone Counselling Centre in Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada. We're in partnership with JFL Media, providing today a webinar on decreasing stress and using mindfulness. And so now let's just start to work moving into the content here. Okay, so this slide that I've developed here speaks to some of the things that are happening now. One of the things that's interesting about what we're experiencing globally is this combined, almost, well, I suppose, traumatic and quite frightening event that's reaching the whole globe. Now, the individual, so people say we're going through this together, and you know, in some ways we're all experiencing the same event. However, how individuals experience this is so uniquely different. Some of us have had loss already, and others have are having financial impact. And then others still, you know, trying to navigate parenting while working and trying to become teachers, as well as make a living for families. So every single person in our world is experiencing this in a different way. And so this brings up a huge variety of emotional responses, fear being a very large part of it. But now the social isolation is really starting to affect us in different ways. Okay, so I thought I'd just bring up the content of what we're speaking to today. So using mindfulness within this. I came across this this breakdown, I suppose, of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is a concept that's actually kind of, it's a very old, ancient concept. I can speak to that through my yoga training, but it's a new way of looking at it and a new way of using what used to be called meditation. Well, and there's still meditation, but the mindfulness opportunity, it really fits very beautifully into the way that we are experiencing our world, the fast pace, the difficulties. Because when you say to somebody, oh, well, meditation, you know, there's the people who know how to do that and know what they're doing. And then there's the rest of us who hear that and think, my mind races too quickly. I can't possibly do that. I'm just not that kind of person. That sounds like, you know, and then they distance themselves from that possibility. Whereas mindfulness is something that we can, meditation is more intense perhaps, and mindfulness, or the concept of it can be, mindfulness is an opportunity to do it through daily living. And so today what I'm going to do is use this this quote, or this, and we put it in French, so I'm not sure the translation is actually perfect, but this breakdown using the letters of the word mindful, and I'll have a slide to speak to on each of those, and then what we're going to do is move into a mindfulness exercise. Okay, so breaking it down, starting with M, so moment to moment attention. So this is a shift towards experiencing the present through focusing attention on the sensations and experiences of the moment. So this means that what you do is you move into awareness for your body. You use your five senses. You start to notice the here and the now, the actual experience that you're in the moment. So much of what we do, especially with emotionally driven thought, is we are anticipating, or we're worried about the future, or we're focused on the past, and we're feeling bad about something that happened, or moving through the various waves of emotions as these experiences that we've just gone through start to move into our present. So I got a little messed up there, but anyways, so what it basically is finding peace in the moment. The theory is that there's worry in the future, there's sadness in the past, and that there's peace. There's all sorts of emotion in the past and the future, but there's peace in the moment. That actually right now you're okay, even though you have emotion. And what it does with mindfulness is that you start to look at that emotion, and what we do with intense emotional experiences is we want to turn away from them. We want to, and it's like pain, right? So you move away from that fear, anger, sadness, like all of these intense emotions that actually get a little reputation for being negative, which I think is very unfortunate, because they just are. It's not the emotion that's actually negative. It's what we do with it sometimes. Like anger is classic, right? So what are you doing with your anger? If your anger becomes a place of pain for others, then that's the problem. The anger itself is actually not the problem. Anger brings light to injustice. Fear brings action sometimes, right? So we can anticipate and plan. So the emotions themselves, it's mindfulness provides an opportunity to turn toward those emotions rather than aversion or moving away from them. Okay. And just seeing if there's any questions so far. Okay, now moving on to the second slide. So being in the here and now, and I sort of touched on that from the previous slide. So becoming aware of where you are now. A lot of times people will use the breath to pull them into the moment, but you can also use other sensations. Because I'd spoken in the previous mini webinar about sometimes when focused on the breath, it can bring on panic. So depending on how your response is to breath, sometimes the breath can be a very soothing place to focus attention. So becoming aware of the now and noticing what you experience. And what the cool thing is about mindfulness compared to meditation is that you don't need to go into a perfect, like the guy on the slide, ironically, I guess I should have chosen a different slide, but you don't have to go into a perfectly beautiful, peaceful place that's all, you know, got beautiful color and light and touch with nature. This is a lovely place to do mindfulness, and it maybe is more inspiring, but mindfulness can be done in motion, in life, in action, while the kids are in the back of the car, fighting or whatever. You can move into mindfulness and find peace in the moment and become aware of yourself without needing that perfect environment, because it's actually engaged in life. And that's one of the beauties of finding that peace within the chaos. Okay, so moving forward. Okay, so non-judgmental attitude. Now, loving kindness, self-compassion, charity or love, these two words are actually interchangeable, and acceptance. So now this sounds all good, but actually doing it to yourself, I mean, we can find ample resources to focus on others and to give. But when we turn that on ourselves, it can be difficult, because we then move into judgment and we start to go, shoulda, coulda, why didn't I? How come I didn't know? Why was I so, how come I acted like that? How come I reacted like that? And so that's where those things like shame and guilt and all of that kind of, it piles up. And so what mindfulness can do is remind you to approach yourself with compassion, which means, and sometimes to get access to that, we have to actually go, how would I feel if it was my child or my parent or something? And then all of a sudden, oh, okay, you know, and then you can feel the gentleness. But when we're moving into that judgmental place, it's like we have to intentionally move out of it, and also not judge yourself for doing it. So once you start to try to practice this non-judgmental attitude, you don't want to end up giving yourself a guilt trip for actually judging yourself for not being, or for being judgmental, and it can get very heady. So again, you just move back into the moment and you think, it is what it is. I am part of my reactions are part of the history of my experience. Okay, so I'm looking at the time, and I want to make sure I can fit all of this in. So moving into this, acceptance is a process, and it's one that's done with gentleness and kindness and patience. So when you try to move into that, don't try to hurry through it. Allow yourself to move in and out of it, and to expect that you're not going to be able to do it perfectly all the time. Okay. Okay, it says I can go longer if I have to, so I guess I might be doing that, because yeah, there's a little bit to cover here. Okay, so detach from unhelpful thoughts. So the D, and this one, the translation actually has a D in it too, so that's great. Okay, anyway, so observe with curiosity. So this idea of detachment is again one of those kind of almost philosophical concepts. So how to detach is actually a skill. So to become an observer of yourself. So one of the ways through this is, so if you think of yourself as having either a personality or a soul, or like a deeper self, that part of you is actually an observer of the processes of the mind. Just like that part of you says, okay, I'm like, you say to yourself, I'm going to go running. So then you run, right? And your legs do as they're told, and you're running, but you are not the running. You are actually deciding to run. So that different part of you. And just like with the mind, so the mind is like, it's like running. It will do math for you if you're good at math and if it behaves itself, but it will do things for you. It will do activities. It'll focus on work. And so when you become an observer of yourself, you become observer of your mind and of your body and of your process. And so it's like you sit back and you watch. And this is what they say about watching your thoughts, and allowing yourself to move into the observer stance gives you that detachment. And so that's kind of it's a little bit of a heady thing to get around, but to observe your process, to observe, wow, look at my heart's beating really fast. Oh, look at my mind's racing and I can't seem to slow my thoughts down. That's becoming an observer. And it's detached, because moving into the loving kindness and the self-acceptance, you observe without judgment. So you observe that process and you go, oh, look at my mind. I'm going to pull it back and focus on the here and the now and the moment. And that is mindfulness. Okay, so accepting with compassion, recognizing unhelpful thoughts like, whew, wonder where that one came from. Did that come from my upbringing? Did that come from a traumatic experience? You become curious, and curiosity is so powerful because it's non-judgmental, and that's one of the goals. Okay, so then you can respond with choice and attention. Okay, so how, just looking at one of the questions here, how to do the here and now while I'm in the middle of a stressful moment, for example, is by imagining a peaceful place. So yes, now that's another, so there's multiple ways of getting into, to trigger the relaxation response. Visualizations, like you're suggesting with imagining another place, that is a whole separate but beautiful strategy. So that's absolutely an option, and it does bring peace. Mindfulness is a little bit different because actually you're going into the moment that you're experiencing. So you're not kind of leaving the moment and finding peace. You're actually moving into the moment and noticing that in the actual moment that you're in, there's peace in there as well. In this very, very moment, even when the chaos is flying around you and the yelling and the kids and the whatever you're dealing with in the middle of your stressful day, you stop. You feel, you breathe, you feel the air around you, you notice the breath moving in your chest, you notice the intense emotion rising, and then you move into that observer stance, right? Where you go, oh, look at, I'm furious. And you start to go, okay, that's anger. Anger is an emotion, and it's okay that I'm having it. And now what am I going to do with my anger? This is where responding with choice and intention, like on the slide there, that's where the freedom comes in to engage in life in a more intentional and mindful way, actually. So that's kind of cool. I'm actually developing one of my work, my larger webinars on all the different ways to achieve a parasympathetic nervous system response, a relaxation response, a decreasing stress response, because there's so many different options. There's full-on meditation, there's mindfulness, there's visualization, there's self-hypnosis. There's so many places to go with this and so many ways to do it. And so you can find something that actually matches your own personality and interests. Okay. Okay, good question. Okay, forgive, so F is for mindful. Okay, we got a couple more letters left. Forgive and be grateful. So this is where this self-compassion again, and there's layers of it. So accepting yourself for what is, forgiving yourself for maybe the times that you reacted to an emotion that you were having, fear, right? I was thinking about how I really don't like the negative and positive ideas, like happiness is positive, and you know, anger is negative, and all of this qualification of emotion. And I was thinking jealousy, that's a curious one, you know, because you just want to say it's negative, but actually, you know, it's fear. Jealousy is a behavior responding to a fear, right? Or even anger. And so once you pull back the layers, you can find that all of those emotions are actually, I know it's weird, but beautiful, because they're part of the human experience and they are natural and they're part of how we are and who we are. And having them is it's part of the process in counseling, actually, to be able to emote, to be able to feel what you're feeling based on what you've experienced, and honoring that. That's where peace comes in, and that's where forgiveness for yourself comes into, and self-compassion. So gratitude, being grateful. Now this is a tricky one. People have this whole like, oh, I know I should be grateful, like people are starving, and you know, I've got abundance. This is a beautiful thing to focus on, but one of the things about gratitude is that it tends to feel like a little guilt trip, like a shameful thing, like, oh, I should appreciate what's wrong with me. Well, having all of those variety of emotions doesn't mean something's wrong with you. That is part of your experience. It doesn't mean you're not grateful either, right? If you're having anger or fear, it doesn't mean that gratitude doesn't exist. It just means that you're not experiencing it in that moment, right? And so gratitude and being thankful is a place to move into a place of gratitude where you start to go, yes, these are the things that I have, and these are the connections. These are the people in my life. These are the loving connections and abundance that I have. And that is actually a mindfulness exercise of moving into a place where you're noticing your abundance, right? But that doesn't mean that there's no place for other emotion too, right? And so it's like moving in and out. It's like a pattern. Okay, now, unconditional acceptance. So it is what it is. And that we speak to it with emotion and with what we're going through, right? With COVID. So sometimes we get involved in, okay, well, we got to figure out what this is. We got to figure out, you know, what the contagions are, can we really get it by going to the grocery store and touching things, and you can get really analytical about it. Or you can move back and you go, okay, I'm going to take the most precautions I can, but I'm also going to accept that this is the experience that we're having. This is the experience that I'm having. And it is what it is. Just like the emotion, it is what it is. Look, I'm having anger. Doesn't mean have to react to it. Just notice it and honor it. Okay. Learning with beginner's mind. So beginner's mind is, again, that place where you suspend what you know and you start to ask questions, you start to wonder. And so when you move into a mindfulness exercise, the curiosity of your experience helps guide you into that beginner's mind, where you can move back and accept or become curious and to explore what you're feeling. And you know, there's different focuses of mindfulness. So today we're going to do an exercise where we just sit where you were sitting and be where you're being. And we're going to focus on that. But you can do all sorts of cool things, like at my local university, I was offering a seminar on like a workshop on mindfulness. And what we did was we did it with one of my colleagues, and we had everyone have a little chocolate raisin, and everyone put it in their palm and moved into the experience of it and smelt it, and mindful eating, right? And so like I was talking about, everything can be mindful. It's just moving into the moment. So you can have mindful walking, mindful eating. And so, you know, put the little chocolate in your mouth and don't chew it yet, and smell it and let it melt slowly. And, you know, like all of that is like moving into the experience and enjoying each part of it and becoming curious about what you actually experience, because we move so fast that we don't pull back. And that's what mindfulness is. It's moving into the moment despite the busyness. Okay, so for those of you who joined a little more recently, we offer corporate wellness webinar packages with JFL Media. And these are the 4 topics that we have right now. And like I said, there's more to come. And what he does is, the JFL Media training is, what they do is they combine corporate packages. And so they provide training for corporations, organizations, government departments, like all sorts of groups, and design the training around the specific needs of those groups. And so this is how you get in contact with JFL Media, through the website or the telephone there. And then again, just before we move into the mindfulness actual practice, talking again about Tele Counselling. So this is what we offer through Sandstone in various jurisdictions, and then Tele Coaching in the rest of the entire of Canada. And so this is how to get a hold of us. Okay, so now we're going to move into the actual practice. And so we're just going to go there briefly, but I'm going to guide you through. And so I invite you to become comfortable. So make any adjustments that you need to do. And maybe just sit back or lay down, like depending on what kind of device you're using right now to engage in this webinar. Or maybe you're watching it later. Anyways, so moving into a comfortable position. And so now what you want to do is, some people would like to close their eyes, and that's just fine. You can also just choose to focus around you. So mindfulness, again, isn't about finding that perfect meditative space. So listening. So we're going to start with the 5 senses, or actually we can only probably engage 3 of them, but so start to notice the sounds. So you can hear the sound of my voice, and I'm actually talking quite a bit, so maybe there's not an opportunity to listen between my words, but there's an ambience around you. There are sounds around you. And so I'm just going to stop speaking for a moment while you listen to those sounds. Okay, and now moving into your awareness of your body and its position. Notice the heaviness maybe of your arms. Notice if there's any tension in your shoulders. Notice the positions of your feet, of each of your feet. Notice where you may be holding the tension in your muscles, may be holding, in other areas where it may be softened. Noticing now if you have an emotion. So in the stillness of this mindfulness moment, you may not feel a lot of emotion, or you may be experiencing something very intense in your life and this emotion actually doesn't leave you and you can feel it maybe in your chest. And instead of turning away from it, I invite you to just notice it's there, to become curious about it. Notice if it has a feeling or a heaviness or a lightness. Notice if it has, maybe it changes your breath a little bit. Does it have a color? So you're moving into the awareness and you're just becoming curious about it, and you're trying to resist that natural urge. Maybe if it's an intense emotion, to turn away from it, you actually turn toward it. And so now looking around you at your space, just doing a survey. You don't have to be still for this experience. You can actually move your head around and look. And just notice maybe some of the colors, some of the items in your environment, because you're in your own space right now. And so maybe some of those items have meaning, and then you can feel that meaning and as you become curious and as you accept non-judgmentally your experience of that moment, of this moment actually. Okay. So mindfulness is about moving into the moment while there's movement in the world. And so this practice can be woven into your daily living, into your work, into your parenting, into your interacting with family and friends. It's a way of remembering, getting in touch with yourself again and moving into that place of peace as you peel back the layers. Okay, so that's our mindfulness experience for today. And I hope that you can find a way to integrate it into your life in little tiny moments, even in the chaos. Okay, so again, I'm going to go back into some of the who we are and why we're providing these mini webinars. It's actually not that. It's providing it for charity, for love, for giving, and we're giving back. And I'm hoping that that you can feel free to share this with everybody and anybody who you might feel might benefit from a little. Like what I was hoping today to do is offer a little bit more of a practical demystifying mindfulness, because it can look so much like you have to be a certain way to do these types of things, but you don't. You just need to be you. Okay, so there's the webinar packages, and then the Tele Counselling and the Tele Coaching and the contact information for that. I'm just going to again provide you on the chat some of the contacts and the upcoming seminars. I'm just going to see what I've got a little message here. And there's the YouTube channel, which I forgot to mention. And so liking us and sharing on our YouTube channel, so Sandstone Centre. We are posting these webinars so that anyone can view them and hopefully get the benefit of them. Okay, And this is the upcoming webinar schedule. So there's the link in your chat, as well as the link up here in the corner, which I think my head is in the way of. Anyways, but there's a way on the website of moving into signing up for the weekly webinars if you wanted somebody to sign up, or if you wanted to sign up again yourself. Okay, so that brings us to a conclusion here. Again, some of the contact information for us at Sandstone and at JFL Media. And we thank you. Oh, that's nice compliments. Hey, yay. Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, yeah, so I look forward to seeing you next week. And I hope that you share this as much as you can with anybody that you think might find benefit. Okay, and so I'm going to be closing. Any further questions that I guess I can ask if there's anything? No, we're good. Okay, thank you so much and have a good day.